Use structured data strategically to build SEO resilience in a rapidly changing SERP with Crystal Carter from Optix Solutions. Brought to you by Majestic. I'm David Bain and this is SEO in 2022. Crystal, what is your number one SEO tip for 2022?
So my number one SEO tip is that if you are not getting involved with structured data in a big way, then you absolutely should be involved with structured data in a big way. And if you have invested in structured data, then you should be looking at new opportunities to enhance the pages that you've already got working for structured data. There's so many different opportunities emerging all the time. They're constantly adding new different types of schema types. And there's constantly new different iterations in which they're being used in the SERP. So it's something that everyone should be keeping on top of. And it's something that sees really, really good SEO results in a fairly swift turnaround most of the time. Obviously, like
most of the time.
I've spoken for almost a minute, and I've nearly said, and it's about time for me to say it depends. But I think that what we tend to see is that if you have someone who hasn't implemented structured data, as soon as you do, you'll certainly see an increase in impressions. It's obviously not a ranking factor. However, it does give you access to certain parts of the SERP that you are not able to access in other ways. And one of the things that I think is great about it is that it's useful for all verticals and it's useful for businesses of all sizes. So whether you're like a single business, whether you're a one-man band and you've got, 5 pages and it says, this is my crystalcarter.com webpage and here's my CV, you can add some structured data to that so that people know who you are and so that Google can find you and connect all of your different platforms and different things. And, I don't know, then it works all the way up to large scale enterprises, people like H&M and Zara and various different people like that.
So how do you prioritize what needs to be done? Because there's so much structured data that can be applied. So what's most important? How do you use structured data strategically?
So from a strategic point of view, I always go for what makes you money. Like when you think about what to do with SEO, you need to sort out the money pages first. You can't pay the bills with clicks. Clicks are lovely. Clicks are great. But if the clicks that you're getting aren't actually making you money, then you need to think again. So if you have an e-commerce website, then you need to make sure that you've got all the appropriate structured data for the products that you are selling. So your product pages need to be rockstar product pages. There's some great opportunities for structured data, with product structured data, and with the APIs for Google Shopping, Google Merchant, and all of those sorts of things. That all sort of work together. They're not necessarily dependent upon each other, each element, but they all work together and they all support each other. So obviously, always take care of your money pages, and that should go first. Secondly, after that, think about making sure that it fits with your different strategies. So what you need to do is increase your visibility, then you want to think about things that help people know who you are. So like information about, say, your organization schema, your team pages. So solicitors, digital marketing agencies, people who are doing sort of knowledge-based, like we know stuff, come talk to us about what we know. And you've got people who are, doing talks, doing events. So all those sorts of things, all of those people should have people pages, and they should all have people markup, structured data for people. And, any content that they're writing should have structured data supporting that. So look at what works with your business, and if all else fails, if you really can't decide what things to start from, look at your competitors and try to fill in the gaps. That's what I would say.
What are the main changes in the standard SERP at the moment that SEOs need to be targeting with structured data? You mentioned Google Shopping there, but is that just a place that people go to buy things, or is this something that actually is going to impact the regular SERP as well?
Well, I think one of the things that we see, I recently did an article about this, is that there are people talk about plain blue links, and people talk about being page one on Google, being number one on Google, but Google's constantly adding stuff ahead of the plain blue links, and they're constantly adding things, adding different elements, and a lot of them are structured data enabled. So I think that so yeah, a lot of them are structured data enabled. And so if you think about Google Shopping, for instance, like it shows up ahead of the plain blue links. So if people are looking for shoes, that is something that Google knows that a lot of people shop for. That'll show up ahead. So if you're talking about shoes generally, that structured data enabled stuff will show up ahead of it. Also, there's the topic layer which shows up, which is also connected to entities and various different things. So what I would say is that Google is being led by a mobile first space, and structured data and mobile first work really, really well, because what structured data does is it essentially gives Google the ingredients. So like, let's say we were to think about like the content on your website, like a pizza. Previously, you were trying to give them a pizza. What structured data does is it gives Google the ingredients for the pizza. So if they start off with a pepperoni pizza, then you give them the ingredients and they can make it a pepperoni pizza. They can make it a cheese pizza. They can make a cheeseless pizza. They can make it a pizza with just sauce. They can make it a garlic bread. They can make it all of these different things. They can take all of the different parts and they can chop and change them how they want. And they can make sure that the SERP is more consistent for mobile. And all of those different things, like recipe cards, like shopping cards, they're all set up so that they're easy to click with a finger, and so that they're easy to sort for users. Because Google's trying to organize the information on the web, so they're trying to organize the information on your website, and they're trying to make the experience very, very consistent. And structured data allows them to do that, because it essentially sorts your website into like a spreadsheet, rather than having to figure out all of the different things. Like, oh, this is that, and that is that, is that, is that, is that. And then they can chop it and change it and put it in lots of different configurations. And the configurations on the SERP are getting a lot more complicated. I published an article recently, and I talked about if you look up the search 50 books to read before you die, it just says sources from around the web. But if you click on, like, I don't know, 1984, which is one of the ones that shows up first, there's a whole carousel of stuff underneath of that. So they accordion all of the books, and it says like, are you searching it now, David?
Yes, absolutely. I'm there at the moment. Yeah.
Right. So you see, there's an accordion right at the top that says that's got like the short list of books.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a list actually. So it's a bullet point. So I've got 7 bullet points, and then I can click on more items there, and then I can go directly to the item. But I've got an accordion at the bottom of the SERP that people can go through. Yeah.
So that's
and then related searches underneath that.
Right. And then there's a carousel. So on mobile anyway, it shows like a carousel with the different things. And within that carousel, there's videos, there's articles, there's this, that, and the other. And so Google is just putting the SERP in lots of different ways. What structured data does, it just gives them more opportunities to chop and change the search in different ways. And if you have the structured data on your website, then it gives you an opportunity to be on it. One of the things that Martin Schlitt from Google said was that he said, it's not structured data isn't and this isn't a direct quote, but it was from a conference a few years ago, and he was saying that just because structured data isn't there now doesn't mean that it won't be there going forward. My favorite example of this is if you look up featured snippets for recipe cards, the first result you get is structured data for how to write structured data for recipe cards, because featured recipes.
It's probably the number one example, isn't it? Yeah. Right.
So recipes used to be a really big space for featured snippets and that sort of stuff, and now it's just entirely structured data. Like that's what they do, and because they can evolve it via the structured data. You get the image cards, then you get the video within the structured data, like pre-rolling within the SERP. It just gives Google more tools to do more interesting stuff for users, which is what they want to do.
Another opportunity for structured data that some SEOs may not have thought of is Google image search as well.
Oh, yeah.
So when I go into Google image search and I have a look at the top of that and I search for blue suede shoes, as I do, then I can see that some of the top listings, it actually says in stock. So I would imagine that structured data is used in order to actually tell Google that these items are in stock and make it more likely for people to click through and buy them.
Well, so that may or may not. So that'll depend on their configuration. That may or may not be directly with structured data. It might be with a product feed, depending on their configuration. But generally speaking, they work really well together. And so I would also say that things like Google Lens, which if at Google I/O they were talking a lot about different things that you can do with Google Lens, and a lot of the sort of the image structure data gives you a lot of different tools to talk about what your picture is. So there's people talk about alt tags and naming the file and that sort of thing. Well, structured data gives you another layer for adding some information about your images within your website, which allows you Google to access the images for users in various different ways. And Google Lens, I think, is going to be something going forward that's going to be really important for the way people search and the way people access things. There's particularly with all of the things with COVID, there's been so much use of QR codes, and a lot of people access them via Google Lens and lots of other things. So, yeah.
So one other thing you say is that structured data builds SEO resilience. So why is that, and why is that useful?
So SEO resilience is basically like, this is my way of saying like, I don't like having to do things twice. I don't like having to go back again and like optimize the same page in the same way for the same thing. Like, if you're doing things by like one keyword at a time, or you're doing things by like one optimization at a time, if you're aiming for one part of the SERP at a time, then, when things change, which they do all the time, you have to do it again. So what structured data does is that it gives you, it's normally a yes and. So if you have a certain type of structured data, you can add another bit onto it fairly easily. And it means that if Google, you can add structured data to a page that's not optimized for a particular rich result yet. And it can just stay there in the background, just marinating and hanging out, like just waiting for the chance. And then with Google, just hanging out. It's just hanging out. It's just like doing, just whatever. I'm easy. And then let's say Google creates this new rich snippet. Then it's like, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That page is already ready for that rich result. So then all your competitors are going, oh my God, what do we do? Like, what is this? We were the top, and now there's this new feature. You're already there because your structured data was already there. So, if you've got pages that are already doing really well, already performing, you can add this onto it, and it gives Google another thing to crawl. And it allows you to sort of see how things are performing, while you're waiting for the time to pounce on the sort of latest element. Because they're constantly adding things. The topic layer, for instance, is something that's like really active in the US search or SERPs, and it's sort of starting to roll out in the UK, for instance. Those things are working with different parts of the SERP. But I think it's the way as far as I can tell, it seems to be at the moment anyway. And John Mueller talked about structured data in his Google I/O space as well. But at the moment anyway, it seems to be one of Google's favorite ways of utilizing the information on the web. And I think that it's something that's straightforward, and it's also with regards to implementation. Structured data implementation is great because it works with what's already on the page, right? So you don't. So in terms of client implementation and like getting permissions and getting sign-offs, like there's some clients like who work in a legal space or a medical space or very highly curated like spaces or very highly monitored spaces where they've got to get every single thing signed off and approved, and sometimes it can delay SEO implementation because you're waiting for this manager or that manager to sign off this, that, or the other, and da 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 da. But with structured data, you're reinforcing what's already on the website. So you can just say, we're adding this in the background. It's exactly the same. We've changed no copy. This says Joe Blogs. This also says Joe Blogs. Like, can I make it so? And they say yes. And then you can just like move it through and at a pace. And then you can see the results at a pace. And that helps build client confidence, and it helps get some great results. and things. So it allows you to sort of move at a pace, and allows you to take advantage of some great opportunities from Google, and it allows you to get some great results for your clients. So like it's my favorite thing.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah.
It's my jam.
So, if an SEO is working in-house and they haven't got any structured data on their site at the moment at all, what are some of the most efficient, what are some of the easier ways to actually get structured data installed and also manage structured data?
Okay, so with regards to like seeing what's going on, so if you want to see if you have anything, there's Google Search Console has in their enhancements element, and they've recently updated this. But they've got a report that tells you like enhancements and stuff, and you'll see it on the side, and it'll say like normally it'll say like logos. Logos is almost always on there. Almost everybody's got that on there. And things like if you're a recruitment site, it'll be like job postings and different things like that. So it'll say that information. And that will tell you what Google is reading, right?
Okay.
It's not, then they don't cover everything because there's lots of different types, but they don't cover everything, but it'll tell you what they're seeing. If you're using SEMrush, which a lot of people are, SEMrush also has a structured data report. Obviously SEMrush is a paid platform. I use, and also on Screaming Frog, there's also a crawl that you can do. It's a certain configuration that allows you to see the structured data there. So that can let you know. If you're using WordPress, get Yoast. If you're using WordPress, the free Yoast will give you the very basic, like we are these people, structured data. So organization schema, for instance. So I had a client who was really big on social, but they had like, so let's say it was like David's Blue Suede Shoes, right? So on the website was davidsbluesuedeshoes.com, but their social was like Blue Shoes by David, and then their Facebook was like talk to me about shoes. I'm David,
Yeah.
and it was like, and they just weren't all the
I only
same.
had 15 characters of a handle. I couldn't get the full thing. Yeah.
Right. So and I was like, which one are you? Like Google cannot tell. Like they were like, because Google's both very smart and very literal. They're like, is that a trailing slash? Because we don't know what this website is, and you're like, what are you talking about? And you're like, so basically, so what you can do is, with organization schema, you can go, we are this, same as that, same as that. And because they were so big on social, they saw a boost to their SEO because they were able to link those things together. And Google was like, oh yes, of course, these people are the same people. And that's really good. And it also means that like when people look up your name, you get what I love, which is like when the SERP is all you. Like if you Google like let's say David's Blue Suede Shoes and like top result website, then the Facebook, then the Twitter, then the Instagram, then the this, like then the, and it's just like it's all me.
I wish I hadn't used that example now. Yes, yeah.
But like
okay,
that's,
So that's seeing if you've got structured data and seeing if your structured data is effective. But what about adding structured data? Is that something that you would advocate just doing manually, or are there good tools out there to do that?
Yeah, so if you're on WordPress, you can add it with Yoast. So Yoast will let you add add a very basic one on the free one. On the upgrade, you can add. There's lots of good ones that you can add, and you can add it to every different page type. So, for instance, you can say for all the blogs, I want the structured data to be like so. And for different pages, you can make it like this or that. And you can also add custom structured data within that. So I would recommend Yoast for that. For Shopify, if you're using Shopify, there's a couple of different plugins that you can get that work really well. I have yet to have a go on Schema app. I need to talk to those lovely people to have a go at that. But the other thing that you can do, but I've heard fantastic things about Schema app. The other thing that you can do is you can talk to your lovely developers and talk very, very sweetly to your developers, and they will have a chat with you and just tell them, I want this schema, and what you can do on schema.org. There's a lot of examples of different setups. So for instance, like there's a schema type for an amusement park, and you can say, this is an amusement park. We are an amusement park. And I would like to have some schema markup like this. And if you're very nice to your developers and apply them with with sweets and compliments. I'm sure that they'll help you. So
So
yeah,
I'm glad you say nice things about Schema App, because Martha Van Berkel, CEO of Schema App, she's going to be on this series, or she'd be on this series. I wonder what she's going to be talking about. Look, Crystal, time for one more question. So if an SEO is struggling for time, if they've been doing one thing over the last 5 years consistently, and it's probably not that efficient for them to doing that, and they've been listening to you and they've been thinking, Crystal, I absolutely need to be spending more time on structured data in order to find that time, what's one thing that they need to stop doing in order to focus more time on structured data?
So I would say that I think it's worth dialing down, making a bespoke meta description for every single page. I think that I'm not saying that meta descriptions aren't important. They are important. They are useful. They help with click-through rate. I use them pretty much as a little sales opportunity, as a sort of like an elevator pitch, I think is what they call them. So I think it's worth, spending time on the meta description for your homepage, spending the time on meta description for like your money pages. Like if you've got a particular blog or a particular page that performs really, really well, or, has that featured snippet, or has that, that great backlink or whatever it is, then yeah, like spend some time on that. But if you've got thousands and thousands of pages and you're spending spending a lot of time and energy writing lots and lots of bespoke pages, I don't think that's as relevant as it used to be.
Okay. So dial it down. Yeah. Don't stop doing it, but yeah.
No, there's tools that you can find, and there's ways where you can automate it via your dev team. So you can speak to your dev team and you can say, for each page that's like this, do this, use this page title and this thing or whatever, so that you have so that you have something that's formatted with a CTA and with a keyword, but that you didn't have to sit there and handcraft, like some sort of artisan from the 1800s or something. Like there's just like, life is too short.
Life is too short. There we go. You can find Crystal over at optixsolutions.co.uk. Crystal, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2022.
Thank you so much, David.
Check out the rest of the content from SEO in 2022 over at SEOin2022.com.